ICQ Podcast episode 486, Windows 10 to Linux. Well, hello fellow amateur radio enthusiasts, and welcome to episode 486 of the ICQ Amateur Radio Podcast. Supported this episode by Philip Heckingbottom, VK6 Alpha Delta Foxtrot, and our monthly and annual subscription donors. In this episode, we join Martin M1MRB, Chris, Mike Zero, Tango Charlie Hotel, Martin, Mike Zero, Sierra Golf Lima, Frank, Kilo 4, Foxtrot Mike Hotel, Bill, Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, and Leslie, Golf Zero, Charlie India Bravo, to discuss the latest amateur radio news. Myself, Colin M6BRY, rounds up the news in brief, and this episode's feature is looking at taking those Windows 10 machines you have and maybe converting them to Linux. Well, it's always your very kind support that keeps the ICQ podcast advert free and produced on a fortnightly basis for you over the last nearly 18 years now. And we're coming up to July, which is a very important month for us because it's our birthday month. And Phil Heckingbottom, VK6 Alpha Delta Foxtrot, is always quick out the traps to make sure he sends his birthday donation in time for July. And thanks for another great year of the podcast. Thank you for all the presenters, and he'll try and attend the talk group gathering whenever he can. So I say we've got another one of them coming up very soon, Phil. That's on the 4th of July, and it's going to be 0800 UTC to 1200 UTC, and really hope we get to, chat to you there on that event on the 4th of July. So please, join us there. Now, Phil's donation along with our monthly and annual subscription donors provide us a wonderful way of funding the ICQ podcast, where we don't have to take advertising or think about what we say or why we're being controlled by someone offering us advertising in exchange for a good review or a good write-up, etc. We hope we engage you, make you laugh, make you smile, educate you, think about things, maybe sometimes upset you a little bit to, contest what we say. But more importantly, the value you get from the show, as I say, for the month of July, we really would like to think about donating that to us as a birthday donation to the ICQ podcast. So you go to icqpodcast.com/donate, turn that value we've given you into a monetary figure, and send it our way, and we really would appreciate all that support. Right, now we're going to join Martin, Chris, Martin, Frank, Bill, and Leslie to discuss and generate thoughts about the latest amateur radio news, including volunteers to hunt for intruders and young hams to support America 250. As always, hope you enjoy.
Well, hi guys, and welcome to the ICQ podcast, episode 486, and tonight the guys are here to discuss some interesting news stories. Tonight, I'm joined by Mr. Chris Howard, M0TCH. Hi, Chris.
Good evening, Martin. Good evening, guys. Episode 486, famous Intel processor there for geeks, but yeah, we're getting close to that. We're getting closer and closer to that 500.
Certainly are. Also, my side of the pond is Mr. Martin Rothwell, M0SGL. Hi, Martin.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm ducking and diving, trying to keep out of trouble, but failing miserably as always, mine. Moving to the other side of the pond, we have Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH. Hi, Frank.
Hey, Martin, 486. Sounds like an old-fashioned CPU processor.
I was going to say that. Is it 486DX?
Something could be. It's DX for me.
There was the DX. That's a good point. There's the DX2.
Yeah.
Is it the SX as well, where they took off one of the pins so you didn't get the clock speed or something? Yeah.
But DX is relevant for parameter radio. DX is relevant for amateur radio.
Oh, we're all triggered now. We're triggered as all now, Martin, with that terminology.
Yeah.
Can we have a poll that we call this episode 486DX?
Let's do it.
Well, you can
see if
try.
anyone notices.
Yeah. Right. Also, over the other side of the pond, we got Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Martin. Hey, everybody. And yeah, since you brought up the 486DX, CQDX.
Yeah. You're getting, but no problems. Anyway, back by popular demand, he's on our side of the pond. It's our Leslie, M0CIB. Hi, Leslie.
No, it's G0CIB, Golf Zero Charlie India Bravo, not M0, but never mind.
I quite modernise you a bit, but you know.
And don't give me on programming of software and all that stuff. I've forgotten all that nonsense about 30 years ago and never done it since.
Well,
anyhow, apart from that, good evening, Martin.
Yeah, I got your call sign wrong, but then I could have been trying to get your call sign wrong so I could get you on modern stuff like digital radio. Hi.
No. Where's the garlic?
Oh, no probs. Right, let's get started with our first news story. And the RSGB are looking for volunteers. There's volunteers are wanted for the Intruder Watch team. Chris, you've had a better look at this. What do you think?
Yeah, so we did a little bit of Googling earlier because I wasn't quite sure what the Intruder Watch team did and whether they were, I think we were getting a little bit confused with a different team with the RSGB. So there is a separate team. So basically, the Intruder Watch team, and there's an Intruder Watch coordinator that kind of looks after the team and manages the volunteers, etc. They're looking for unauthorised transmissions on the HF bands, and they're part of the IARU Intruder Watch kind of team, I suppose, they're kind of the sub-team, I suppose. So they're looking for specifically things around HF, and they're monitoring the primary amateur bands. So they're not looking at anything on the secondary bands. Now, there's a very similar team, which is what we were chatting before we started to record, that do something similar but not quite the same. So there's also, the RSGB also have a team called the Operating Advisory Service. It used to be called something else, but that's the current name. And what they're doing is they're dealing with complaints around deliberate interference on repeaters, abuse, as in repeater abuse, people pirating call signs, that sort of thing. So they're a little bit different. They've got a slightly different mission. So yeah, Intruder Watch is very much about the HF bands, and looking at their page on the RSGB website, they're talking about interference in the past they've had from Argentine weather facts, military stations in Somalia and India, diplomatic stations at various different foreign embassies, over-the-horizon radar, etc. So they're looking specifically around coordinating, listening and to those signals and logging them and making sure they've got the exact frequency and the time, and then kind of doing that as part of the IARU. So yeah, that's kind of what they do, and this story is all about trying to find some more volunteers to help them to do that. So yeah, back to you, Martin.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, how much clout they'd have if country X, and I'm not mentioning a name, decides to transmit somewhere and says, we're bigger than you, what are you going to do about it? I don't know what you could do about it, but yeah, there you go. Mr. Rothwell, Martin, you put this one with us. What do you think?
Well, I saw it on social media on one of the amateur radio groups, and I thought, that's worth sharing. So I had a dig on the website to see what was going on, and then the cheeky side of me says, well, the RSGB has employees, why do they need volunteers? They have paid members of staff. They're looking for people to listen out and to watch. Do they not need an advertised portal that if you experience something, that you find something that perhaps shouldn't be there, you can just go and report it and say, hey, I have found this? Although, would that not need to go via Ofcom? I don't know, because there's a lot of things where we talk about repeater abuse. I remember like the cranes that shouldn't be there on 433. There was a building site using 433.5, which is the 77's calling channel in the UK, as their PMR comms, and they were like just chatting away on it, completely oblivious to the fact they were drawing attention to themselves. But also the other thing that I would say, if you're looking for things like over the horizon radar and other things like that perhaps shouldn't be there, isn't that kind of what the whole point of like Ofcom's monitoring station like at Baldock is for? Why are they looking for volunteers to do stuff? Surely they'd be better off having a portal to just report stuff.
So Martin, interestingly, that's who they report there. It says they submit reports to, exactly then to them, to the Ofcom monitoring station at Baldock. So I suppose they're kind of extending their reach in providing them with information, as well as IARU regionally.
Okay.
Yeah, so interestingly, you probably need as many people as you can on the ground, so that might help. I remember the operating advisory service, when they gave us a lecture once at our club, they kind of identified themselves almost as the band police, who were the ones who were going to complain and catch you out if you're doing something naughty on the amateur bands. But yeah, they almost identified as the band police. Leslie, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, To be honest, Martin, I've never got involved in that side of things at all. Many years ago when I was with the RSGB, and it's something I just never got involved with. I was aware of their existence. The thing is, if what is going on is not reported to Ofcom, then as far as Ofcom is sort of concerned, it hasn't happened and it doesn't exist. This is sort of when we had issues with interference and all the rest of it, and the number of complaints that went into Ofcom was absolutely minimal. But you switch your radio on and you could see it there and then. But so I do think it's important to have a sort of a feedback linked or reporting scheme to Ofcom, just to let them know what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's not down to the RSGB or any other organisation. It's not down to the RSGB to police it as such, and I use that word carefully. It's really there to be reported to Ofcom, and then for Ofcom to deal with it. That's my take on it. But it's a job that needs to be done. Over to you.
Yeah, understood. Now, Frank, I know this is a UK story, but do you guys have a similar thing in the States, and how does it work if you do?
Well, we have a similar thing with regard to ham behavior, mostly the volunteer monitoring program. I've been with that since they changed it from the observer program. I forget the old name for that. And to my knowledge, and Bill, if you know something I don't, please, so when you weigh in here, please add that. This is interesting, but the principles are not very different. Yes, the official government agency probably has monitoring stations and staff who do that. But if you think about another situation where you've got storm reports, I've been a certified storm spotter for the National Weather Service here in Jackson. And so you go through training and you know what hail the size of a quarter really does look like. The random person who may communicate to them, they don't know how much to trust that. So in a sense, you're getting licensed amateur radio operators who know a minimum about radio and some who know an awful lot about radio to listen and focus. Now, we don't know what the details are with the Intruder Watch coordinator, Ian Stewart, but I'm sure they get some training. And as Leslie said, these are reports that help amplify official listening. And let's face it, folks, those official listeners kind of have a hard time listening to everything at once. So when you get some reports about frequency X and this time on these dates, it helps them focus. I've done forensic data collection for some hams in the U.S. who were splattering intentionally, it appeared, and collected that through software-defined radio receivers. And I would go so far as to say that the Kiwi system, using those receivers where you use the TDA, time difference on arrival extension, they have GPS receivers in those radios. So you get a pretty good timing signal. And so depending upon the geometry of the different time difference on arrival of at least 3 of those radios, you can reduce a needle in a haystack to a needle in a handful of hay. So I'm doing a little bit of interpreting guessing here, Martin, but we don't have anything quite like this that I'm aware of. But sounds like a good program, and it's important work that hams in the UK can contribute through the RSGB.
Yeah, right. There's only a finite sense of resource anywhere. And if we enjoy listening all around the band, so if we find something that's happening, then reporting it's got to be good. Bill, last words on this one?
Yeah, I have nothing more to add because I think Frank did a really good job explaining the U.S. similar kind of program, other than to say it's always good when folks ask for volunteers and give volunteer opportunities for people. It's always a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all think that was a good one. Right. So that was a UK story, which is often not very many of them. Okay, young ham radio operator supports the America 250 celebration. I'm going to pass this one to Frank. What do you think about this, Frank?
I think this is a very much a feel-good and objectively good story. It's a good story for the contribution. It's a feel-good story because we like to get young people engaged where we can. And so a 14-year-old ham operator, Micah Sandoval, KB4MPS, has been involved in making radio contacts across the U.S. And this is part of something that the American Radio Relay League is sponsoring and supporting, the America 250 All States Award. Now, I got bleeped in a previous episode when Martin Rothwell and I were getting a little too giddy about government, and I used a word that we don't allow on the program. So I'll try to be careful, Martin. Both Martins.
Hang on, did we get bleeped? Did I miss that?
No, I got bleeped.
I need to go back and listen to this.
So the great quarrel that we had 250 years ago is being celebrated. Let me put it in a tactful way, Martin. And that's a good thing, and it's a good program. As it goes without saying to anyone who has not been hiding under a rock that the U.S. has a fairly divided and very partisan political process these days. But this program is avowed to be nonpartisan and authorized by Congress. So getting a young person involved with this is just it's a feel-good story. And this young person, Micah Sandoval, will probably remember this for the rest of his life, of his involvement directly in the America 250 celebration.
Oh, yeah. I think I agree with you, Frank. It's be a big milestone in the little guy's life as he grows up. So it'll be a good one. Mind you, say little guy, he might be taller than me for all I know. Hi. Bill, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like this story as well. This event is pretty popular here, at least in the States. And I hear a lot of W1AW stroke, whatever call area they're in. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat that this is a year-long event, which is cool, because you can also use this towards your Worked All States award for those that chase the awards on the air. And I'm sure there's folks already by now that's got all 50 states on this. I actually didn't see if anybody mentioned that anywhere, but definitely it's a good special event. And I do believe all 50 states have been activated, but so far, at least for a little bit. But yeah, so it's quite the event. And it's I was hearing someone FT8 and 40 SSB the other night. So it's there's stations out there, and I'm really glad this teenager was able to help us out here with that as well.
Yeah, I think, as I said, he'll remember this for the rest of his life. Leslie, what's your thoughts?
My initial thoughts were good on him. Just go out there, do his stuff on the radio, contact as many places as possible. Yes, it's okay for a special event, and we're not going to mention about tea and taxis because I'll get into trouble. But good on him. Yeah, it's an important part of American history. Over to you.
Yeah. Well, occasionally I sit down with youngsters, and I sat down with a youngster and interviewed him last year at the National Hamfest in the UK. I think he was 14. I'm going to apologise because I'm terrible with remembering names and call signs, but we had a great chat, and the young lad was really, really into the hobby, so it's got to be good.
Good on him.
Yeah, good on him. Martin, what's your thoughts?
I don't really have much to add. I mean, I was just looking at the story. It's the 14-year-old, say, Micah Sandoval, KB4MPS. They say he was making lots of contacts there. I just love the fact that he has, at 14, has the opportunity to do that, whether it's his equipment, his parents' equipment, or our club. I wish that, there were other opportunities for other youngsters who were, let's face it, we've said this before, are the future of our hobby. Because if you don't get younger people into the hobby will die. I just wish there were more opportunities for things like that. So people running clubs and things like that need to sort of almost open up their stations and welcome in more and more people to try and show stuff off. So get out there to the special events, get out there to the fairs and things, and promote the hobby. And it's, the whole time you've got people, people playing with radio, they're not out misbehaving in the streets and things, are they?
And they'll never be able to afford drugs. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. This is the whole thing. Ham, what does it stand for? Before ham radio, has a lot of money. After ham radio, had a lot of money.
Well, you say that, but Chris and I were out on Saturday, and we'll probably cover a lot of this in what we've been up to. But we must have spoke to probably getting on for 100 little ones, and their mums and dads. And we were just, all right, it didn't actually go on the air, but we were just getting them to send their name in Morse code. And I've got to say, you couldn't pay us enough money for the smiles and the engagement we had from those youngsters, could they, Chris?
Absolutely. It reminded us when we used to be on HMS Belfast, and very similar. A bit nervous at the start, don't we want to get involved, start pressing the button, makes a bit of noise, and by the time they set the name in Morse code, it's a bit of a secret, it's as in the mum doesn't know what it means, as in what they're sending, it's a bit of a secret code. You can't get them off it. So, yeah, absolutely, it's great.
Yeah, so all in all, youngsters, getting a youngster involved like this got to be good. There is we totally agree on this one. Now, looking at our next news story, I'm sure Edmund would, if he'd been with us today, would have been champing at the bit, because the last news story was about a special event station. But we've got one more. The Tour de France is happening soon, and there are Tour de France call signs to listen out for. The Tour de France starts on the 4th of July, but this is another bit of fun. I'm going to pass it to Chris. Do you want to go first on this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, any special event station is always great, and why not have one for the Tour de France? Interestingly, this year it seems to be, I think it's starting in Spain, I think it's starting in Barcelona, it's going north and going up towards Paris, I think. Not entirely sure, but yeah, it's going north. So, lots of, especially for us in Europe, there'll be lots of stations for us to work. So, it'll be interesting to see how many of the stations that we can get in touch with. It would be great. Yeah, I'm not sure how the Tour de France works, because I think the route must change every year. I know they've had the Tour de France in the UK before as well. So, not quite sure how they get across the English Channel, but yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and absolutely, yeah, I do quite enjoy working special event stations. So I'm sure they'll have lots of contacts, and people will be doing this. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, Leslie, this has got to be a bit of fun through the summer months, hasn't it? And it's got to be HF as well.
Yeah, it's really good, Martin, because you do get special event stations, and the Tour de France certainly is one. I do believe it came to the East London a few years ago, and that created an awful lot of interest, and having amateur radio associated with that and trying to work a special event station of it is a good idea. And again, it's promoting the hobby. Yep, Tour de France, not something I have ever been involved with, but it does create some activity on the band. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah, well, equally, I'm not a cyclist. I know Chris has done a lot of cycling in the past, but it is interesting, and it's a massive event. I think it's well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that people will know. Bill, what's your thoughts on this one for Tour de France?
I did not qualify for Tour de France this year, so sorry, guys.
Oh, shame. Let's look next year, Bill. Yeah?
not at the speed I've been riding. But yeah, this is a special event. Oh, my French is really rough. 100th anniversary in 2025, and Réseau d'Amateurs Français. So that's the French national group, isn't it? I can't remember. Anyway, they're definitely doing the special event again, and it's pretty cool. The route looks like it is all over France, but it's some serious mountains, because I think they trying to see where they start. I'm not sure where they start. I see they finish in Nîmes. Or no, Nice. That's down there, Nîmes. So there's multiple segments, and it's quite a race. So it'll be very exciting. And they have multiple QSL cards out there, and they all look really neat. Oh, okay. So the first segment's 4th of July through the 26th of July, and then the next segment's the 1st of August through the 9th of August. So it's a big deal. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a whole list of special event stations here. They all start, just in case the listeners are wondering, Tango Mike, 2 digits, Tango Foxtrot Radio. So it matches some of the other special events they've had in the past. And each one of the numbers is a special event for a special location that the racers are going through. So it's pretty exciting. And I think this will be a nice little award and nice little QSL card for those that collect those.
Yeah, and then once again, I'm sure our Edmund's biting at the bit because he actually speaks French as well quite well, and has lived out there for over a year at one point in his time. So, yeah, I'm sure he's going to get fired up with this one. Frank, I know this is over in France and Europe. I've no idea whether you ever did cycling, but what do you think?
I came closer to recycling than cycling, Martin, but yeah, I've never been a cyclist, but I work a lot of bicycle races here, nothing like Tour de France. And we actually have a couple of hams who are in that race, one of whom was a former graduate student of mine. And they actually wear a headset with an HT and operate Vox, so radioing back into net control, which I often serve in that capacity. I think this is a very nice thing to do. It's even nice in Nice, Bill. But it's a good way to put amateur radio in something that the broader society enjoys, and it sort of brings that specter of amateur radio there. And I'm sure that even though this story doesn't really say this, I would be surprised if local amateurs with VHF and UHF radio are not helping coordinate some of the more congested areas. I might be wrong there, but I would be surprised if they didn't contribute in that fashion.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people, and there will be hams watching the event alongside the road and passes messages between each other. I'm sure of that. Martin, last words on this one?
When I read this story, I read this as the cyclists are using radios when driving. That would be fun, and that would be a great publicity thing for amateur radio. You know, you could, and it sounds silly, but you could do that. You know, with say Frank says Vox headsets, you could have a VHF remote control to a follow car or something like that that's got an HF station in it, and that would be great. I would love to work that. But no, otherwise it is typically normal, stereotypical special event stations, but they're always a bit of fun. There's something new for the log. People that chase QSL cards, as I think Frank said, it's another one you can potentially get. Listen out for them. If you hear them calling, give them a shout.
Yeah, why not? It's always fun to work special events.
And just one thing to add, it's going to be phenomenally, well, certainly in Europe at the moment, it's extraordinarily hot. I don't think I fancy cycling through it at the moment. Hopefully things might be a little bit cooler for the guys that are doing the race. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very hard work. Back to you, Martin.
Oh, yeah. Well, what did we say? At the moment, it's 35 degrees here in the house, which is equivalent of that centigrade, 95 Fahrenheit. It's hot and sticky.
In France, at the moment, it's 40 degrees. So, yeah, it's even hotter over there. So, yeah, it's going to be... hopefully things are not quite as hot as they are here, not as hot as they are now in a few weeks' time when this starts.
Yeah, no problems. Right, let's move to our next news story. In Canada, a radio has a senior moment. All right, it's a bit of fun, but to remember, a senior moment to remember. Frank, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Although it's a broadcast station, they're celebrating a 100-year birthday, aren't they?
Well, they are, and let's all remember that commercial broadcast emerged from amateur radio almost anywhere in the world, I would imagine, certainly here in the States as well as Canada. There's a Lethbridge senior citizens organization in Alberta, and they serve age 55 and older. They do a lot of things there, and it's interesting. Their station, an FM station here, CJOC, is marking its 100th year in a partnership with that senior group's amateur radio club, and it's honoring radio's roots during the time before amateur radio, it was all amateur, became commercial broadcasting. And I'm just tickled at them making this connection because it does recognize the origins of where what we take almost for granted, if not passe, with some automobile makers today not putting radios in their cars. So this is just delightful. This senior center, we have some in the States that allow this and do this, that actually recognize the role that many of their residents would be hams, and they have an amateur radio group. And I'm just tickled that they have an amateur radio club there.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Bill, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mostly agree with Frank. It's really nice that they are able to celebrate 100th anniversary. Because the first time I read the story, I'm like, there hasn't been FM radio around for 100 years. But then I dug into it a little bit deeper, and it's like, oh, okay, this is the broadcast station in general. They're just currently on FM. But yeah, it's really neat. It's congratulations for this Canadian station in Alberta for, making it 100 years. Other things are shutting down, so at least they're still going.
Yeah, certainly is. Now, I have been to Canada, but I haven't been to Alberta, so I apologize, guys. But sounds like it's a really good one. Right. Mine, what's your thoughts on this?
I was looking at this. A radio station is celebrating its 100th birthday. We have radio stations in the UK that have not lasted anywhere near as long as that. We've radio stations that go off after a couple of years and they don't make money. Even the long-standing ones typically get bought out after 20, 25 years. Most of them have all gone. But 100 years is certainly an achievement. I think they're talking about shutting down like the long-wave transmitters for Radio 4. That's been on there for quite a while. I'm not sure how long that's got. But I love the fact that they've teamed up with an amateur radio station. I do wonder, the cheeky side of me wonders if they let them use their broadcast tower for anything, whether they've got any repeaters on there or an HF long wire up the side or duplexed into, I don't know. But yeah, it's quite an achievement. Happy birthday to them.
Yeah, certainly is an achievement. Chris, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, not much more to add. It is an achievement and it's great. I mean, I suppose radio technology has been around this sort of time. And I know a lot of the national amateur radio clubs have celebrated their anniversaries in the last decade or so. So, yeah, I suppose we're now coming up to that, aren't we? It's, some of the stations that are still around when the radio was being introduced are now celebrating these sorts of birthdays. So, it's great they're still around, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, very good on that one. Leslie, last words on this one?
I think everybody, including especially Frank, has covered everything, covered all the points on this one. So I agree with whatever everyone's been saying.
Magic, no problems at all there. And so a good one. Right, let's move to our last news story. And this is something that suddenly got us thinking about. New annual verification process by radioid.net. Now, a lot of us have got DMR IDs.
I haven't.
No, you haven't, but I'm going to get you one soon.
No.
Okay.
Give me real radio, not this digital stuff.
You and I could fall out very quickly.
And that's when the fight started.
Yeah.
Leslie's still sitting there with his old Motorola analog phone wondering why there is no network for it anymore.
Look,
1G.
sending jets, folks. You know that.
Oh, we know. We don't fall out, Leslie. You know that. No, it's you need to revalidate your ID every now and again because they're running out of IDs, and people do tend to sort of sign up for something, and then 20 years later they've forgotten all about it and haven't done anything. So for those that do need an ID, they're obviously going to reuse some of the old ones, and it would be nice to make sure this happens. But okay, I'm going to pass it to Martin first. What's your thoughts on it, Martin?
Well, first things first. My ID. I've got a DMR ID. It is registered, but it's registered with an email address that I no longer have access to. The problem being, I had two domains. One was m0sgl.com, the other one was martinrothwell.co.uk. And m0sgl.com got cancelled by my provider without notice, and I lost it and I can't get it back. martinrothwell.co.uk I still have, but there is something to do with the email forwarding that doesn't work. So whenever you set it to forward this to my Outlook address, Outlook rejects it because it's been forwarded from a domain. I can't work out why that is. So I do wonder how I'm going to get around that. Maybe there's a way I can reset it. But most things like this seem to want you to be able to access your old email before you can do anything else or before you can change it. But the other thing is, this is primarily for the Brandmeister network. I wonder how it's going to affect people that use other networks, because let's face it, if you are using another network like the Phoenix network or anything like that, you're typically using the same radio, the same ID. Is it going to affect your access to that? But at the end of that, I don't see there's an issue with asking people to re-verify their IDs, because let's face it, you have to renew your license every 5 years, at least in the UK. I say renew, go onto the Ofcom website saying, yes, I still have this. It's not any different to that, really, is it? It's just, it's like IP address. If you're not using it, you're going to release it, aren't you?
Well, yeah. And I'm sure if you contact them and tell them your email address has changed, there must be a way of getting it sorted for you.
I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there is. And just to have interest, you and I registered pretty much within like 30 seconds of each other. And my number's too high than you, so somebody else got in between you and I as well. There you go, on the numbers. But there you go. Chris, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I did notice this the other day. I was logging. In fact, we'll talk about something else in a bit. A new app that's coming out. But when I was looking at that, I had to go and remind myself what my DMR ID was. So I logged into the Brandmeister website. I said, reminder, need to do this radioid.net email thing. And I wasn't entirely sure what I was supposed to do. And I'm still not entirely sure what I'm supposed to do. It sounds like I'm going to get some sort of reminder at some point to do something. When I get that reminder, I'll do that thing. I get the point. They're running out of IDs. They want to perhaps recycle a few. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I'll figure out what I've got to do when I get the email. Still not quite sure what that is just yet, to be fair, but we'll work it out. So yeah, that's it, Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, no problems at all. Well, I'm not going to ask Leslie because he doesn't have an ID, so leave him in peace on this.
I've got some garlic I've put around the room.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll leave you in peace on this one, right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Frank, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I don't think you should kidnap Leslie and get his ID tattooed on him so he won't forget it or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that, folks, okay? But this is a typical, type of authentication process that indicates the growth of a particular service. Let's face it, if people were not using Brandmeister particularly, then there wouldn't generally be a run on the IDs. And they have upped the ante on trying to secure their hotspots. They've got a kind of you want advanced security for your hotspot, they've got a long code you can generate that will be hidden in the software, for example. And so this is just part of that, and it's maybe a nuisance to some. I'm sure I will gnash my own teeth at some point when I need to renew mine, but it's the price of progress in many ways, Martin.
Yeah, it certainly is, Frank. And the other thing is, when I bought my Anytone, or must have my Anytone 878, must be about 6 or 7 years ago, it said it can store 200,000 IDs in it. And at that point in time, there was about 160,000 amateurs. And I thought, that's great. No, never fill it up. Well, my radio no longer can store every ID in it. So, yes, DMR IDs have increased. And, my radio can't store them all. Bill, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, same problem. My radio, I'm just loading the North America database on mine at this point because it's just there's so many IDs out there. Folks mentioned that this is not just Brandmeister. Multiple other DMR systems are using the radioid.net numbers as a global database. So like Brandmeister is the one that I'm on, TGIF, DVSPH, Chicagoland, Wisconsin DMR. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones out there, but it's pretty much, it's probably all of them. DMR Southeast, Freestar. I just don't know the whole list, but it's definitely a lot of interoperability now with the DMR. And, so they got global network of 308,005 DMR IDs right now. So it's big numbers, and exactly what the article says is true. Some of them allocations, they split the number bank they have up for DMR IDs by regions. I think North America starts with 3 now, and some of them are going to be out of numbers. So it's definitely worthwhile exercise for sure. And, just in general, a lot of this stuff that you're into and you do for a little bit, just annually just saying, yeah, I'm still using this mode. I'm still doing this stuff. Keep my number active. I don't think that's really a horrible big deal. Cause, the way they're starting this off is on your anniversary, you're going to get an email to, verify you're still using it. And then if no confirmation's received within a period of time, which I can't remember what I read, but it was pretty reasonable, they temporarily turn your ID off. And then if they don't get back to you in a year, I think it is, then they actually, free that number up for somebody else to use. So it seems pretty reasonable to me.
Bill, just think about 2-meter frequency pairs for repeater coordination. Wow, this type of thing might free up some of those pairs in some areas.
Well, that's true. It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure how it is in Jackson, but we have a lot of repeaters consuming electricity right now that are idle, and I just let the scanner run and occasionally hear somebody checking their HT battery to see if the battery still works.
Well, just to add what Repeater Book is doing, Garrett working with George Zafiropoulos, KJ6VU, have a device that they want to propagate that will actually send back how much a given repeater is used. And I'm not trying to kind of be if you remember the character of the soup Nazi in the Seinfeld TV show, no soup for you. Yeah, no soup for you. So I'm not trying to parrot that, but we do have sequestered frequencies by repeaters that have never been on the air, but someone got them. I'm going to put up a repeater, and a decade goes by and we're out of numbers. So it's a more general type of problem is the only tag along to Bill's comments from over here in the States that I'd like to add.
Yep. And so anyway, I think this is a good thing long-term. So it's not a bad idea to make sure it's good. And then Rothwell, I put in there, if you can still log in to your radioid.net, how to change your email address.
Good to know.
Well, I've got two to do because I actually have 2 IDs, but and they're both in use. So there you go. You were talking about repeaters as well. This one on me is Martin Rothwell because he is our repeater keeper. I had a conversation on our 2-meter repeater on Saturday afternoon with a gentleman that was telling me the repeater wasn't working. And I said, well, I'm talking to you on it. No, you can't be because I haven't heard the bleep. When I ka-chunk it, it doesn't bleep. And I said, no, the repeater keeper stopped people ka-chunking it, but listening for the bleep. We are having a conversation, a perfectly good conversation. The repeater is working. So anyway.
But how do you know when people are done talking without the Roger beep?
Well,
that was a joke.
Yeah. No, the ka-chunkers, Bill, trouble is, every time they ka-chunk, you get a beep, and it used to do your head in. So now, the repeater will ID every 20 minutes and with its Morse ID. And if you put a call through, it works. But if you just ka-chunk it, you don't hear anything come back. So there you go. Anyway,
that is by design.
That is by design, isn't it, Martin? Because that's how you wanted it. No problems at all.
Also, it's not if you have a trail on it, it stops the digital side working.
Yeah. All right, so that concludes our news stories. Let's find out what the guys have been up to since the last time we spoke. Bill, what have you been doing?
I've been working some DX. I've got a couple new countries. I actually didn't have Cameroon or the Republic of Congo in my list, although I thought I did. I was able to pick up the expedition in Lord Howell Island on 40-meter FT8 and 20-meter CW. Picked up Egypt. That was another one. I hope I can get a card out of them because I've worked Egypt before, but I don't have any QSL cards for the wallpaper. But definitely chunking through there. Did some SOTA, worked some SOTA stations, worked some FT8. I'm messing around with multiple smart SDR like Linux versions. So Ether SDR I'm still using. I bought another one, REMU SDR. That one actually runs on performs a little bit better on the Raspberry Pi because the main shack computer here is my Pi 500. And so I've been messing with that and getting all of seeing how that software works and stability and, getting things set up. Those that use Debian know that sometimes getting microphones to work on a Raspberry Pi is kind of wonky, but I was able to figure that out thanks to some online instructions. I did upgrade my Windows computer to the 64-bit version of Smart SDR. And surprise, 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 my random crashes with drivers went away. Gee, that's funny how that works when you have 64-bit drivers in a 64-bit operating system, how much that works better. No shade towards Flex. I just know it took them a long time to get there, but I'm glad they got there. And then the other piece of kit that I've been playing around with, both here on the back porch and out and about, is I've been playing with this QRP Labs QMX transceiver. So this is an incredibly small little transceiver. It's like $100. I paid for some extra little parts and stuff, so I think my total order was $130 or something like that because I got the aluminum case tabs on it to keep buttons from breaking off in my bag. But I'm actually pretty impressed with this for, essentially $100 put together little QRP radio. It does a lot of stuff and it works really well for what it is. I was really surprised at how much features are packed in this little processor that Hans has in this thing. It's very impressive. So I have nothing but good things to say so far about the QMX. I think, Martin, you said you put together a QMX Plus.
Yeah, I've got a QMX Plus.
And so this is the not Plus version. So this is the tiny little thing that fits in the palm of my hand. But I've been having just tons of fun with it. And I see why people really like these, and I could see why a lot of portable operators take these in their packs. Definitely a really nice radio. So anyone that's on the fence about, getting one of these from QRP Labs, they probably should. So I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, well, I was quickly scrolling through my list of people in my email here because I wanted to find a call sign. Yeah, there we go, call sign. So I was talking to a friend of the show, Scott McDonald, who lives in a suburb of Chicago, call sign KA9P. And if you're listening, Scott, I'm going to have to make this more politically correct what you said to me, although I understood why. He said to me, building a QMX Plus is for wimps. Real amateurs do QMXs because they're much smaller. But he was trying to wind me up in great fun.
Well, I will say, I will agree with that. This is not for the faint of heart. And I always have trouble with toroids. My fingers are really large, and so I have to use tweezers and stuff to wind them. And this thing packs a lot of stuff in the little box. I'll just put it that way. It's doable. That's the beauty of this thing. His directions are amazing. Once I use the right soldering iron tip, because I always use small soldering iron tips. You actually need on this to use a larger one so you get more heat without turning the temperature up, because this thing just sucks up the heat real quick because it has multiple ground planes in it. I mean, the design on this thing's like genius. I just, I could talk about this for a lot longer, but the reason why it probably works so well is that he took a lot of time designing it and planning stuff out and putting things like multiple levels of, basically ground isolation built into the circuit board. He did a really good job on it. It's very impressive.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And I'll talk a bit more about the QMX and the QMX Plus and what you've been up to. But great radio. As I say, I've got the Plus. It was bought for me as my birthday present last year. And I thoroughly enjoy it. It's great radio. Right. Frank, what have you been up to?
Well, let me just transition by saying this. I also have the QMX and a QMX Plus, and the beauty of the larger design is that you can add on to it. Some of us in the Sutton and Cheam Club enjoyed a great presentation by Graham Somerville, a proprietor of BHI that makes the DSP audio. And, they have some little circuit boards, and it's listening to him. I thought, I may put one of those in my QMX Plus. I have one that has the batteries inside and then an audio amplifier in there. So the beauty of the bigger one is what you can do with it. I wound up with an extra QMX. I wanted two that would cover most of the bands, and in making bids on things, I wound up winning both of them. And so my Twitter friend, whom I have tremendous respect for, Jim, he goes by Ham on a Bike, N4JAW, up in the Midwest. I sent, unannounced, my QMX to him. Jim's had some tough things he's been dealing with that I knew on a personal level. And I just wanted to give my extra one to him. And I look forward to him using it in a POTA activation, which if it ain't raining, Jim's doing POTA, and he travels on his bike, does not own a car. Anyway, Martin, as a transition, the listeners know I've had rotator cuff surgery on my right shoulder May 7th, and I'm out of my sling. I'm a danger to society because I got two hands on the keyboard now, and my physical therapy is going quite well. They estimate I'm about 3 weeks ahead of the median time to measurement and that sort of thing. So getting back into things. Still can't push up a mast or do any crazy things right now, and it'll be some time before I can. But I am getting better. As I've been at the keyboard, I've been continuing to study U.S. parks data to vet potential sites for an alternative program that allow for local parks to be activated, as well as some other innovations like the long federal parkways and trailways that POTA activators complain about. I can work the Appalachian Trail in 5 states, or I can do the Natchez Trace, and so on and so on. Well, looking at sort of chopping those into county segments so you can work the entire Appalachian Trail county by county. If you're doing some experimenting with that, looking at things like took golf courses out of it, that's an invitation to bad karma. If you think wildlife management areas would get upset at a bunch of hams operating portably, you just get some golfers' way off a tee box. Also taking shooting ranges, which are local official parks, as well as stadiums out. So there's a good bit of work to go through an official national parks database to make sure that you've got areas that are legitimate. And we'll see if this program is going to be launched. The group I'm working with is trying to discern if one's viable. And frankly, we could use some additional volunteers, particularly those with full stack IT skills. You can reach out to me at my email shown on my K4FMHQRZ page if you're seriously interested. Well, I succumbed to the call of service again. Even though I had resigned as assistant director of the Delta Division, I joined the board last month of the Jackson Amateur Radio Club. They're now called the Jackson Metro Amateur Radio Club and serving 6 counties. And my second time on the board, but I've been rebuilding or building a new website for the club. It's at jmark.club. It's not official yet, so some things on there that will change. I'm working with Todd, K5TDD. Todd's co-chair of the Hamfest, the Capital City Hamfest here in Jackson in January. And one of the things that Todd struggled with is a way to really do marketing and purchasing strategies. You want a table at the club, you want a small table, your ham, you got a few odds and ends versus a big dealer. And so we've got some tools I think we'll be able to have a much more innovative. It will be paralleled with the one that the Huntsville Hamfest uses, because I know what they use in their WordPress site, and we'll use a little different one, and we think it's a little better. Now, on that note, for our listeners who do work in ham clubs, online fillable forms are kind of a common thing. And of course, Acrobat can do. The Acrobat can be pricey, and they've kind of gone to a subscription model. And if you already got it, yeah, go ahead and use it. It dawned on me when I was redoing the membership form for JMark, last done in 2012, that I have a suite of PDF tools that's free that I used almost every day. It's called PDF 24. That's PDF 24. And it's much more effective than either the pricey Acrobat or other tools I've tried for taking a document. You might build it in Word or LibreOffice or some other word processor, and you got to fill in the blanks and all that, and export it as a PDF, and you can import it into PDF 24, and you just fill in blanks and give it the characteristics. And it took about 15 minutes to recreate a form that had been locked in since 2012. So I'd recommend you look at that if you're doing club work and you need fillable forms. Well, finally, I'm working on the inspiration that Bill Barnes and I had from Drew Glassbrenner, the current president of AMSAT, when we did an interview for the podcast here several weeks ago. I'm trying to get my satellite station bits and pieces together. I'm going to pick up an Azel rotator, probably going to do the Ant Runner Pro from China, from a little company called Muse Lab and BG5DIW. It can be controlled by G-Predict. I've got a Kenwood V71A as a full duplex radio. If Anytone doesn't get their 890 UVHT satellite mode working with full duplex, you can do it, and you can program the frequencies for the Doppler effect in and manually change them. But they've got a satellite mode. It just currently doesn't work full duplex. So I hope that will work because that'll be less equipment to use. I've got an Era 2 dual band antenna, and so I'm newbie to this. I'm looking forward to get some more experience. I know Bill, for example, has done satellites. I don't remember. I think maybe Martin Rothwell may have done some. But I want to get a little up to speed on the LEOs and do some of this at a smart activity at the Madison County Library here to expose SAT operations to young people and those young at heart. Martin, back to you.
Well, we all want to be young at heart, Frank. Honestly, we all need to be young at heart, even as older ones. Yeah. Leslie, what have you been up to?
Oh, not a lot, to be honest, Martin. Obviously, I've recovered from all the knee things that were going on. So I got the call up to help out at the Lewis Beer Festival. So I looked after their equipment, the radio equipment, and made sure everything was tickety-boo on that side of things. So that was all good. What was the other thing? The radio, the Zygu, I think, X6200. I'm still playing with that, still trying to find my way around the menus, but I've sort of come to the conclusion it is a very good purchase. And I'm just playing with it, putting up a few bits of antennas so I can start doing field days and that properly without taking too much weight with me. So that's all from this end of the world, Martin.
Yeah, not a problem, Leslie. Well, I've got a Zygo G90. Not the prettiest radio in the world, but it certainly works very well. So there you go.
Yeah, they're fine. You know, they're not the top. If people think they're at the top of the range, they're not. But they certainly do the job. And for a transportable, just chucking your rucksack type thing, I thought it was very good. Over to you.
Yeah,
I hope we'll get a review out of this, Martin. I'd love to get Leslie's view on that after he's used it for a bit.
Now, it's interesting you picked that up, Frank. I won't be looking at it from a specification point of view. It will be more of a how does it. What was I trying to achieve, and has it achieved it? You know, does it do the job? Can you take it out in the field? So that's the way I'll be looking at it. If that's all right,
we'll let Rob Sherwood do the bench test.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I quite like my Zygo G90 as well. We had it out the weekend working. Martin, what have you been up to since the last time we spoke?
Not as much as the other guys, that's for sure. I still have no antennas up at home at the moment, so I can't really do anything at home at all. A little bit of 4 meters, a little bit of 2 meters in the car when I'm driving between places on the repeater and what have you. What I did do was I had to take my radios out of my car because it went in for its annual MOT sort of safety check. So I took it out because it was going to a new garage. I had no reason to doubt them, but just didn't want to do temptation if I didn't know the people. So I took the radios out of the car, I put them back in. I thought, you know what? The problem with the FTM 400 versus the 350 that I used to have is the microphone connects to the radio itself. There was no port on the display unit for the microphone to plug into. So the radio itself has always been under the seat in the car. The microphone is just plugged into there. But the microphone lead wasn't quite long enough. So I thought, it's just an RJ11. I'm going to get an RJ11 extension and go from there. Got that, it didn't work. And then I looked at it again and I thought, oh, right, okay. It's not RJ11, it's RJ12. The difference between RJ11 and RJ12 is the number of pins it has. Physically, it's the same size. RJ11 has 2 pins because it's designed for telephones and they only need 2 wires. RJ12 has 6 wires in it. So I got myself an RJ12 extension. Weirdly, it's 5 meters, but it's fine. Put that in the car, and that will now roots up quite nicely through to the centre of the car. And the 2 microphones, one for 4 and one for the AC, both come up next to each other, which is quite nice. Interestingly, I think back actually, I was a bit worried I was going to lose some signal because I think back to the CB days. I remember buying a microphone extension, and the CB had like a proper screw-in 4-pin connector, and it was like a 2-meter coiled extension. And I remember people saying, your S point's gone down. It's gone down by like 2 S points on the meter. And I took the cable out and plugged it in, and it worked fine. So I was a bit worried that the same thing was going to happen with my amateur radio. I needn't worry because obviously the amateur radio is a lot higher quality than the old CB radio was. So that's working quite well. I've been playing with some SDRs, other people's SDRs, Kiwi SDRs and stuff from online. So it's been having fun, some listening from different stations around the world. Including listening to some broadcast stations from around the world on medium wave, just to see what they can hear. And before they shut it down, how far the Radio 4 long wave signal actually goes, which is quite nice. And the only other thing that I've done anything related to radio-wise, I'm sure you will touch on, Martin, is you and I went back up to the repeater the other day, but I'll let you fill people in on that because obviously we had some learnings from that, didn't we? But it was nice to go up and have a look and see what's going on up there. But other than that, that's pretty much all I've been up to.
Yeah, great fun, Martin, great fun. Well, Chris, I know you were out with me on Saturday, but I'm sure you've been doing other things. What have you been up to since last time you were on the podcast?
Well, I've been on holiday, so I think I missed the last one with this group a month ago. So I think I was away at the time. In fact, I would have been away at the time. So yeah, went to the US. Went to around sort of the East Coast, so around sort of Boston and New England area. Went up to New York, Manhattan essentially for a few days and back. Yeah, some interesting places. A few things that were radio related. So driving around Cape Cod, came across a sign saying Marconi Beach. I thought that can't be a coincidence. So when we got to our hotel, I had a chat with the guy who was checking us in. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's the something to do with radio." I goes, "Oh yeah, okay." He goes, "There's also a museum in a place called Chatham, which is just down the road from where we're staying." So the next day we went to the museum. And the museum is the Chatham Marconi Maritime Centre, and that was a station that was used to communicate with ships, I believe. And it's quite a nice place. I had a long chat with some of the guys there, very interesting guys. There's also an amateur radio club that operate from there. There was no one there at the time because I was randomly there. It wasn't like I was going at a particular time when I'd arranged to see anybody there about that. But yeah, it was good to see those guys. And just up the road from there was this Marconi Beach, which was the location of the first US to UK transmission from, I think it was to Cornwall in the UK. And yeah, there were some big towers there back in the day, back when it was active. And I'm just going to quickly Google actually when that was. And then there's a little bit of things left behind, 2 bits of concrete and things that were left behind for when that was being used by Marconi, which is, obviously, here we go, the first transatlantic communication. I think the first one was actually from Canada to the UK. I think this was the first time they had communication between the US and the UK over the Atlantic, and that was back in 1903 from what I can see, so 120-something years ago. So that was interesting to see that as an amateur, sort of seeing Marconi. Okay, that's obviously something to do with what we do, so that was good. I also, when I was in Boston, I did operate through the repeater there from my little UV5R Mini that I took with me from Baofeng. That worked pretty well. I had a chat with a couple of guys in that area. Did also take my DMR handheld and my hotspot, and I think I did chat to you, Martin, I think, from New York, from the hotel, on that, using the hotspot. So a little bit of radio there. And then what else has been going on? As Frank mentioned, we had Graham from BHI, did a great talk for us at the club the other day, talking about what BHI do and the sort of their product range, but all good stuff. And also, Martin, I'm sure you're going to talk about this as well. You and I and Phil from the club attended the Sutton Your Space Summer Fair, and he touched on us a little bit earlier as well, where we had a stand there and we were sort of talking about amateur radio and promoting the club, and we were doing things like Morse code and things with the kids there. So that was a bit of a family day out. I think we'll probably do it again next year. It seems to be pretty successful in promoting what our hobby's about. What else? I know Martin, in fact I know both Martin's been involved looking at the repeater, and I know Martin Butler, I've given you a little mini PC to use in the future, maybe to get the internet connection working again. So I was getting that prepared, getting it updated, Windows 11 on there, and it was already on there, but make sure it's up to date and kind of stripped down to just have on it Windows and nothing else. I've been playing with the app you mentioned earlier, the Vox DMR app. Maybe I haven't mentioned that earlier, but I know you're going to go on to talk about that maybe, which is quite good, but I'll let you talk about that. I've got that running on my mobile on my Android phone, and also on my Chromebook as well, which works pretty well. So that's all good. And then finally, I am planning to go to the Newbury Rally in a few weeks' time. So if you're in the UK and you're going to that, we might see you there. So that's everything from me, Martin. Back to you.
Yeah. Well, you have been busy, and I think we've all been busy, but this is a good one. Right. Well, hopefully I won't tell you exactly what Chris has been up to, because Chris and I have been quite busy together a couple of times. For Bill and all of you who have QMXs or QMX Pluses, there's been a couple of new releases of firmware that have come out. About 2-3 weeks ago, has released a piece of firmware that to stop the PA blowing up. And in fairness, you had to do some really silly things to blow the PA up. But he wrote some software to fix that. It didn't quite work with the QMX. It worked with the QMX Plus. That's now been fixed into QMX and some other bug fixes. So you could say, all right, there's bug fixes, but at least Hans is fixing them. It's not like that we find a bug with another radio manufacturer and they leave it for the world and his wife. It just becomes a feature. At least Hans fixes them. So I'll give him credit for that. So there's 2 new updates happened in the last week, and hopefully putting that your radio up to that level will fix those minor issues. Last Thursday was Mrs. B's birthday. I was about very, very popular. Well, I did manage to take her out for lunch, but I did attend the hospital and refitted a new repeater onto the hospital roof. And that's now working perfectly well. Good talk by Graham Somerville from BHI for the club. Chris has already mentioned that. That was a great talk, and Frank was there as well. Sutton Your Space. That was a bit of a panic. Place. It's called Your Space Sutton, but it's years ago it used to be where they grew all the plants for the borough. And it was the borough nursery, and then they let it get into disrepute, and the locals took it over as a sort of just a space for the local community to play. And it's gradually built up, and it's a very interesting place. And I go there once a month for a repair cafe, to run a repair cafe part of it. And I'd said to the guy when he was talking about their open day and their fundraising day, would you like us to come along and sort of just show a bit of radio? And he went, yeah. Well, the problem is you can't put up massive antennas and run massive amounts of power when you've got the public close to you. And we tried out a few things that were a bit different. So we had a couple of Morse keys with buzzers on them. And the way we play it, and this is probably a little bit naughty, but the way we play it is, I'll say to someone, a child, or say, do you want to go send your name? They look all worried, and they get them to come across, and then I explain what a dit and a da is, and they do a dit and a da, and they're yeah. And then I shall say to them, don't tell Chris what your name is, and here's a sheet with all the letters and the abbreviations that go with them, and you send your name to Chris, one character at a time. So they reluctantly do it. They look quite worried as they're doing it, but they do it, and it's a bit of fun. And then Chris will say, oh, your name's Jane, or your name's Philip. And the smile on the youngster's face is from ear to ear. You can't pay Chris and I enough money for that smile we get. And then often the parents have a go. And there was one little girl, she was probably of Chinese persuasion, and she wanted to have a go, and she sent her name, and Chris told her what it was, and she said, hang on, I want to send me dad's name, and my mum's name, and my sister's name, and she was totally gone. She thoroughly enjoyed it.
And I'll tell you what, Martin, just to jump in, I've got to find the kids are actually, in my experience, far better at sending Morse than a lot of adults.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, the other one we had, of course, was the local police lady as well. She sent her name in Morse code, so that was a bit of fun. I think we got a photograph somewhere, actually, of that as well. So that was a bit of fun as well. We got her involved, so, yeah.
Yeah, so we got the latest, the police force were there doing a nice little visit and a publicity stunt. And we grabbed them over and got them to send their name in Morse. So that was a bit of fun. I've been given a 2 metre and a 6 metre linears to have a look at for one of the members of the club. That ain't going to happen this week because it's a podcast week and I'm busy. Once again, I talked about Vox DMR. Karen found it. She told Ed Durant, who told me, and I've spread it through the group. It works better than the other version we had, but nicely, it works very, very well. The only thing I will say, bear in mind it works under Windows, Linux, and Android phones. For the PTT, I used the space bar on my Windows PC and held it, and when you release it, it stops PTT, which seemed to work quite well. On a touchscreen phone, on my phone, when I touched the button, it will put it in the transmit, but it didn't hold it in transmit for long enough. So what you can do is you can say, instead of push and hold, or touch and hold, you can say tap it to turn it on and tap it to turn it off. And on a phone, that seems to work better. Yes, I did do some 2 meters and 77s mobile, and I have been on the talk group, not as much as I'd like. Digital talk group next on time is the 4th of July between 8 o'clock UTC and 12 o'clock UTC. So hopefully somebody will join us. Sunday the 5th of July is Newbury Rally, where Chris and I are going to be there. I'm going down with Phil, another supplementary member. So Chris and I will be at the Newbury Rally. And if you spot us, just say hi. I don't think we'll be wearing orange though, Chris, will we? But we'll see.
Well, I don't know. It might do. I mean, yeah. Maybe.
See how it goes. Anyway, that's what I've been up to. So I think we've all been busy, guys, and I think we've had some fun. All that's left for me to do now, though, is to say 73s to you all and move to the next part of the podcast. So I'd like to thank Mr. Chris Howard, M0TCH.
Thanks, Martin. Another fun episode, if not a bit warm, but yeah.
Yeah, a little bit warm, but we got through it without too much problems. I'd like to thank Mr. Martin Rothwell, M0SGL.
It's been fun.
Yeah. I'd also like to thank Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH.
Glad to be here. This old 486 made it to the podcast.
Yeah, well, that's a wonder what a 486 will do. I'd also like to thank Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bill. And last but not least, I'd like to thank our Leslie, G0CIB, not M0CIB.
Martin, thanks for having me on. I ingest on the digital stuff, and you know that.
Oh, I know. Come on, if we can't have a bit of a giggle on things, life's too short to get upset. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to say 73 to you all, and we'll move to the next part of the podcast. 73, guys.
See ya.
Cheerio.
7-3.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.ICQPodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.ICQPodcast.com.
Time to have a look at the news in brief with me, Colin M6BLY. We start with news here of the 44th AMSAT Space Symposium, an annual general meeting will be held in Jacksonville, Florida on the 8th to 11th of October this year at the Crown Plaza, Jacksonville Airport on intersection 95. Registration details and a call for papers will be coming soon, but you can book your hotel rooms online at a special link we'll put on the ICQ podcast webpage for you. The group code is AMS if you're looking for the group discount for that event. So that's the AMSAT Space Symposium and General Meeting taking place on the 8th of October to the 11th of October this year. From the 1st July, a new Element 2 Technician Class question pool will come into effect. The revised pool, which was released back in December and re-released in February with updated information. As I say, it will be used there. There's 409 questions in this pool, down slightly from the 412 in the previous pool there. So make sure you get up to date with the next question pool that is going to come available if you're taking your technician exam from July onwards. And WRTC 2026 in the United Kingdom is now just a couple of weeks away. And a bit of news here. So Q5 Ham Radio YouTube channel was given access to the new live scoreboard platform that's been developed by World Radio League in collaboration with WRTC 2026. So we'll have links to this YouTube video for you. And they talk through, obviously, the challenges of running a fair real-time system for thousands of operators worldwide. There's also been a rule change in relation to national identification. So the organising committee has issued a rule update regarding the display of national identification by contesters. Under a new rule, national symbols such as flags on clothing are not permitted at social events and the awards ceremony. During the contest itself, teams may fly flags at their allocated operating sites. However, displaying national identification outside of those designated contest locations, for example on t-shirts or jackets at social event gatherings, will result in disqualification from the competition. So it's an update there on the scoring and the rules on flags and symbols. Right, now we're going to head over to our features episode where Martin's having a look at what to do with those old Windows 10 machines you got and breathing life into them with Linux. Hope you enjoy.
And now for this episode's feature from the ICQ Podcast.
Hi guys, for this episode I wanted to talk about some of the things we're probably going to hit a lot of you. Windows 11 became out last year. Windows 10 is no longer supported by Microsoft for upgrades and fixes, so you are becoming vulnerable if you're still running a Windows 10 computer. Now, for most of us, Windows 10 is probably perfectly okay. However, we don't want to be vulnerable going forward. So to make us not vulnerable, why don't we do something with that old Windows 10 machine? Because your chances are you've gone out and bought a Windows 11 computer that will run Windows 11, but it doesn't mean that the hardware on the computer that run Windows 10 is rubbish. So you've probably got a hardware kicking around. Why not install one of the versions of Linux onto it? Now, in fairness, when I first started playing with Linux in the early 90s, you used to have to create mammoth numbers of floppy disks and install it, and it took ages, and then you only ended up with a text-based system. However, that is completely different today. So, going forward, let's talk very quickly about Linux, what it is, what you can do with it, because I think this might convince some of you not to throw your hardware away and reuse it. So, what is it? Well, Linux is a fully functional operating system that does most things that most people do. You can browse the web, you can do your emails, you can do social media on it, and all the bits and pieces. Now, there is amateur radio software available for it, and some of it is very, very interesting and very, very good. Going also, how much will it cost you? Absolutely nothing. Unless you want to donate, you can donate if you wish, but predominantly Linux is free. Whereas Windows, and if you buy a Windows 365 subscription or you buy Office 365, you're paying money for it. There's an equally useful, very easy to use Office system within Linux, and that works very, very well. So that you don't have to rush out and spend a lot of money. And if you've got a spare machine sitting around doing nothing, this might be your chance to actually have a look at an operating system that may fit the bill for your system. So, is it any good? Well, I have to say yes, because most of the computers out my house are running Linux. In fairness, most of the file servers on the internet are running Linux. So it's been around a long time, and there are cut down versions of Linux running probably in your routers at home, and all sorts of devices that need an operating system but, don't want to cost you a lot of money. So, yes, I'd say it is good. Now, who is Linux for? Well, it can be for anybody who uses a computer. In fairness, you could use it for very simple things like scanning the internet, searching for files, email, social media, all those things. Perfectly well supported, and with the graphical user interface and desktop, it's not that much different from Windows at its absolute basic level. However, it's a very, very powerful operating system that, if you want to go further, can make you go a lot further and give you a lot more functionality. Now, can I do all the things I can do in Windows? Pretty much. I'd say pretty much. So you won't be able to run Microsoft Office. Okay, that's acceptable. You can't do it. But, as I said earlier, LibreOffice is equally as good a product, in my opinion. It works very, very well, and it's free. So, you're going to have a little bit of a learning curve, but you'll find it. If you can do things in Microsoft Office, you can do things in LibreOffice. Okay, where do you get the software? Well, once you've installed your Linux operating system, there's a program you go to install software from the software repositories. And you click on what you want, it downloads and installs for you. Now, the beauty of Linux is not only when you install applications, you very, very rarely have to do a reboot. Equally, when you do software upgrades, if you told Linux to do a software upgrade, it will just do the upgrade. It'll bring down everything that's required updating and do the whole lot in one go. Unlike Windows, that will bring down 2 or 3 things, do that, and then you say, is there any more software update? And then they say, oh no, there's another 3 or 4, and you spend ages doing software updates. Linux does it all in one go. And at the end of the day, it just works. Very rarely do you have to reboot. So, a little bit of quick history. Linux was originally designed by Linus Torvalds, and he came up with the idea of he wanted a teaching system. So very early on in the early 90s, yes, it was text-based, but it's open source. So people develop for it, and it has come a long, long way from that point in time, and around about 1991. And as I said, it started as a text-based system, but now it's a fully featured operating system. As I say, you sit somebody down with it, and who's never seen it before, they wouldn't be totally lost. It's just a different operating system. So, distributing in packages, as I said, you can get distribution of various types of Linux, but the main 3 you're likely to run across are, you might want to run a file server. You can download the software to run as a file server. Most people will download it to run as a workstation, or you can install it on a laptop or netbook, and they all work very, very well. There are various packages or distributions of Linux. So effectively, a distribution takes the core program and wraps it up into a nice downloadable system and makes it easier for you to use. Now, the main ones, there's people like Slackware, Red Hat, which is a very, very long, people have been in it a long, long time. Fedora is another version of Red Hat, and that's the free version of Red Hat, effectively. SUSE Linux, I've heard of. Debian is another big distribution system, and there are variants from within Debian. So there's Linux Mint, which is reckoned to be very much like using Windows. And the one I tend to use is Ubuntu. And I use a Linux version of Ubuntu to effectively run my systems at home. Now, you say, well, how do you keep it up to date? Well, I update it. I would suggest you go for the long-term support option. So if you install it, you install the long-term support version, and at the moment I'm running 2404 LTS long-term support. 2604 long-term support came out a couple of months ago, and I've no reason to believe it's not worth having. It's just A, I haven't got round to upgrading to it, and B, I like to wait a little while to make sure that it's going to solve my problems and not give me any. Okay. For those of you who've got a Windows machine, if you know what you're doing, you could actually dual boot it. Now, it's a little bit of more work, and you probably need to be a little bit more computer literate, but you could set yourself up a dual boot. And effectively the way that is it restructures your disk, shrinks the Windows partition, creates a Linux partition, and then you end up with the Linux bootloader that says, do you want to run Linux or do you want to run Windows? And you choose at boot up time. So that's the dual boot option. Installing it, well, you can install it in the old days from CDs, and floppy disks of very, very early version. Later on, pretty much you download an image to a little thumb drive and or a DVD, and you can install it from that. Or you could install it across the network if that's what you wanted to do. And there are things called live CDs. So you can boot up a Linux distribution, and before you install it, it gives you a fully functional system to have a look at. If you like what you see, then you push the installation button. But it gives you a base system to have a play with on a live CD or live DVD. Types of computers, well, I've done all sorts of things. I've also done Shack in a Box, and I've also had it running in virtual machines. For those of you who are interested in running virtual machines, it does work. There are loads of books out there for Linux, and some of them are free on the internet. Some of them are a bit cost you a few pennies. But then if you were studying anything to do with Windows, you'd be buying these books anyway. So don't feel that you're wasting your money. You can also find all sorts of information online, and most of the distributors tell you where you can find software and things like that. Useful applications, was a lot of those. As I say, you download them from within Linux, and they're all customized to work perfectly well with them. There's a great set of games if you're a gamer, a lot of games, and there's also quite a number of amateur radio pieces of software. Not everything, but some useful pieces. So well worth a look. As I say, I did mention my LibreOffice. Once again, it's a word process, spreadsheet, drawing package, presentation package, and much, much more. So all built in. You can do mail. It has a mail package if you want to use mail, and you can set it up for that. Or if, like me, you have Google Mail, then you just do your mail from within the Google browser, as I would do under Windows. So not a problem. And let's say, with a web browser, you're home and dry. So that's a lot there. Now, there's one other package I will tell you about, and that's a package called Wine. Now, Wine is an application that will often, not every time, but most times, run Windows native applications in a sandbox effectively under Linux. So you spin up Wine with your program, and that then allows you to run your standard Windows program. So interesting. You're not totally isolated. But if you've got a machine that's doing nothing, why not try it out? As I say, I mean, they can always be downloaded and installed from the repositories, these applications. They're fairly straightforward. And the applications have been tested to run under Linux. So you won't end up having a problem by finding that something's going to screw your system up. And as I said earlier, you probably 99 times out of 100 won't have to reboot after an update or a software installation, because it's a very, very stable environment. So applications for amateur radio, just a quick few. FL Digi, if you're doing terminal emulation with digital control. There's AIX25 for those of you who do packet stuff. There's Morse applications. And the one I like, for which I think is very, very good, although there is a Windows version of it, is a thing called gPredict. gPredict is a satellite tracking program. Very, very good. So all in all, I think it's very good. Now, I also have used the contest logging software. There's various contest logging softwares. You choose which one you prefer, but if you want to play with contest logging software, you can do it with Linux as well. Rig control and antenna modeling with NEC. So you're not cut off. And last but not least, WSJT and Whisper are also available under Linux. So you're not going to be lost, and play with APRS if you must. I think going forward, I'm hoping I've whet your appetite. If you've got an old computer that you've just taken out the shack because it can't run Windows 11, then this could be a very good opportunity for you to learn a bit of Linux, see what's available under Linux for ham radio, and also give yourself a bit of interest. And hopefully, it won't cost you any money. Now, in fairness, I've installed Windows 11, and it eats your hard disk. I think Windows 10 was about 40 gigabytes of storage, and then you start putting your applications on. Linux, with most of the applications I wanted, 20 gigahertz. So an operating system with applications is only half the size of Windows on its own without anything else installed. So just a little thought. And as I say, I think with a bit of time, you can have great fun, and you don't have to throw that computer away. And yes, you might get frustrated at times, but when you come out the other end, you may not ever have to buy another computer for a long time. I hope this was of interest.
Well, Dad, many thanks there for your feature. Now looking at what you can do with potentially a really good Windows 10 box. And I know that migration to Linux idea is something that's very close to your heart, and something you passionately believe is a great use for a PC that, just because it's got an end of life from a licensing point of view, doesn't mean that the box is dead.
Very true, Sam, very true. I mean, I've got two of your laptops you gave me that are not suitable to run Windows anymore. And funnily enough, they're both Microsoft machines, and they both run Linux, and they run very, very well. So what I was trying to say to people is, you probably spent a fair bit of money on some of these desktops in your shack. Okay, we want to make sure that you don't end up virused or compromised in other ways, because Windows 10 is not being upgraded. But there are other options, and I just felt it was useful to go and have a look at Linux. There are various flavors, and there's actually quite a lot of interesting software out there for Linux for ham radio. So it's kind of a learning curve, but it means that piece of equipment you might have only bought just over a year ago, you're not going to throw it in the bin, which is, landfill seems terrible for that sort of thing. So that's where I went, Colin.
No, I certainly agree with you there, and I must admit, it is brings a small smile to my face when I see you take out those Microsoft Surfaces, and people look at them, and then all of a sudden the Ubuntu drums play in the background. It does make me smile when I see that. So no, so fair play to you for giving them an extra lease of life, as you say. Well, feedback, and always we're very grateful to hear from you all. I know we've skipped it last couple of episodes because obviously we've been travelling, etc. And Martin and I haven't been together very much. But I know, Dad, you're going to start off with a piece of feedback in relation to hamclock.com, which is a very important update.
Yeah, Keith G6NHU emailed us and gave us some updates on HamClock. HamClock was a lovely piece of software, and unfortunately when the gentleman died, it looks as though it was all going to fall into a big pit. Now there's a rewrite effectively and the back end. So HamClock is still live. You need to download the latest version and point it in the right direction for updates. But in fairness, this is a great piece of software to have running if you're doing a special event or an event where you're dealing with the public, because it's a well thing. On the screen, it looks well. And I must admit, it would have been nice to have run this at a special event we did on last Saturday. But we didn't have mains power, so, I have to accept that, Colin. But yes, HamClock is not dead. It's worth a look, and have a look for it and see what you think.
Yep, and what we'll do is we'll pop a couple of links that we've been given for you to find HamClock. One's quite humorous. HamClock is not dead.com, which is a humorous one there, and we'll pop those for you on the show notes page so you can check out those links nice and easy for you. Now, I would like to thank the couple of people that posted postings to ICQPodcast.com regarding the decline in amateurs in Japan. There were some very interesting links as well, some statistical information. Do check that page out if you're interested. They were posted anonymously, so we can't give credit to the listeners that did that. But thank you for, posting that information there. And it's great for the community, to share additional information from the stuff that we talk about in the News Roundtable. So thank you very much for doing that for us. We also had some feedback from Dr. Scott Wright in relation to a news story a couple of episodes ago. And he's got a few points he said worth correcting, particularly, for those that's not in the States and learning, the workings of US government, etc. So he mentions that the House of Representatives actually has 435 members, not 452. So important number to know. Interesting one, Dad. I don't know if I could say how many MPs there were in the UK or in the Irish Dáil. I mean, I know roughly, but I couldn't actually probably put a finger on it, which is interesting. He says it's exceedingly rare for a US senator to be elected to the state role of president from the Senate. It has been done by John F. Kennedy, and Barack Obama have done it. Also, I believe Harding may have done it as well. He says senators elevated to vice president later on to be the president of the United States include people like Harry S. Truman, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Joseph Biden, and senators who have tried to be elected to either both the president or the vice president include Robert Dole, Walter Mondale, Gary Hart, and many more. So, as I say, interest there. He says also as well, the US political system is heavily tilted to the executive branch who control the civil service and administrative officials. The judicial branch can declare laws illegal, unconstitutional, or otherwise strike them down, but its power is significantly less than the executive branch. The legislative branch has two equal bodies, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Both have equal power and can exercise control and oversight, but since the 2000 era, this branch has been getting weaker and weaker, in his opinion. So interesting, to get that overview, and obviously from the civic side of things there. So, certainly for us non-US participants there. He also suggests as well, in his opinion, that Ted Cruz may not be a serious contender for US president. My opinion is, Scott, it really depends, I think, upon your political leanings. I think there's a big part of people that hope he might be a contender, and there's others that don't see him that way, the same way you do. So, as I say, it really does seem to be across the political divide, depending upon your opinion on it from there. But as I say, I suppose a long way to go yet in the current presidency, and so we won't be seeing, any change soon in the White House. But as I say, certainly interesting to get that piece of civics information, and appreciate Scott for dropping us that line and letting us know about that bit of important information.
Certainly, I agree with that, Colin. The other thing is, in fairness, I'm not big on American politics, so I listen with interest, and I know that I've sometimes said the wrong word or the wrong number. We don't do it deliberately, but sometimes when you're under pressure, with records going and all the bits and pieces, you get tongue-tied. So it could have been some of that as well. But, fairness, Scott, Dr. Scott Wright, thank you very, very much. I know you know Frank K4FMH fairly well, so I'm sure you'll rag him for it just for a bit of fun. Back to you, Colin.
Do you know what? I think it's one of them ones, the more you know, the less you know type of thing, or you realise the less you know, because you say, you find out a bit more and a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and then you realise in the big scheme of things how, I suppose, little this stuff is taught now in schools, etc., and probably spoken about in a fast-moving media world where everything's just a headline. You realise that a lot of the time you might not necessarily know the nuances of how things work. So I appreciate the feedback. As I know, it's not necessarily amateur radio, but you never know. Something might end up in the House of Representatives and you're looking for the wrong number to get a bill passed. It's important to know what the number is. So, from an amateur radio point of view. So I say it's appreciated. Many thanks. Really would like to pass on our thanks to Philip Heckenbach on 3K6 Alpha Delta Foxtrot. Thank you, Philip. Philip's always quick off the mark when it comes to the ICQ podcast birthday month. It's a very important month for us, July. It's our big drive on our donation drive, which really does start to see us through to the end of the year. So as we always say, if you found something that's engaged you, made you think about things, you've learned something, you've laughed, you've smiled, you've chuckled, you've told someone at your club something you've learned from the ICQ podcast that's made you look really clever, turn that value you've got into a financial figure. Go to ICQPodcast.com/donate, and there you can send that value back to us. And say everything you send to us keeps your show advert free and produced for you every fortnight. As we've been doing now for 18 years now, it will be in July. Which is a phenomenal achievement. The only thing we've got to be careful of, at 18 you're allowed to leave home in the UK, so we've got to keep this podcast under control there to make sure it doesn't walk off and leave us behind, so we'll have to do that from there.
Oh yeah.
All right, yeah. Right, I think that just about sums up episode 486 of the ICQ Amateur Radio Podcast. We really do appreciate your downloads and you listen to us, etc. Now, obviously, the important thing we need to do at the end of our show is to make Mrs. B, normally I'd say a cup of tea and find her a treat. But in this weather, Dad, I'm really hoping you've got some ice cubes in the freezer and you've got a cold drink lined up for her.
Yeah, I'll find your mum a cold drink and there's something nice to go with it. Interestingly enough, the boys, when they found out it was episode 486, they were quite into Intel 486 jokes at the start. And I believe there was a 486DX processor, and they said it'd be nice for you to call this the 486DX version. But no, we can't mess with the numbers. But a little bit of fun, and yeah, if you missed some of it, I did rag Leslie a little bit about not being on the digital talk group, but don't worry, we're all friends. We have a bit of fun.
We can't mess with the naming culture, Dad, because I know there's a repeater in Australia that rebroadcasts us, and it's all scripted based on the fact that we keep consistency in our naming convention. And if we ever change it, it breaks the script and we don't get rebroadcasted. So it just proves to you how important structure and process is on these sort of things. So so we'll have to keep the standards. Unfortunately, we'll have to keep the standards, but we'll go from there. Well, let's say 73 to you all, guys. We're going to catch up again in a fortnight's time. Really look forward to chatting with you all again. Look forward to catching you again on the digital talk group on the 6th, and as I say, importantly, continue to enjoy the hobby. So I wish you all 73s.
Yeah, 73.